Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Before I share the name of this week's Torah portion, I'll ask you, what is the name of this week's Torah portion? Vayigash. Vayigash. Does anyone know what Vayigash means? I'll give you a hint. If you open up to page 274, the opening of this week's Torah portion, you can find the Hebrew and its translation. Page 274. Unlike rabbinical school, Judaism is an open book exam. Well, maybe we had a couple. Here's the book. Read. Find the. Yeah.
They went up to him, but that's not a great translation.
Okay. Went up. They went up to him. Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. They went up to approach, to meet, to come close. Great. Now let's understand what's going on by the Vayigash, the word in this week's Torah portion. Who is Vayigashing who? Who's approaching whom here?
Judah is Vayigashing.
Judah is engaging in Vayigashing. Yes, very good.
With his brother Joseph.
He is going to approach whom? Joseph, right? Who at this time, he understands Joseph is in what role? The Pharaoh, yeah, right. The viceroy, the Pharaoh, 100%. Yep, okay. And he's not aware that Joseph is his brother. Of course, Joseph, as we learned in last week's Torah portion, is very much aware of who Judah is. And we're now going to find out last week's Torah portion, we ended on a cliffhanger, and we're going to find out what's going on here. So, why is Judah approaching Joseph? Joseph has something. He's making claim to something that's very important to Judah. What is it? Who is it? His Benjamin. Okay. And why is Judah approaching Joseph? It's okay. This is all a quiz on last week's Torah portion. But I want to highlight the power, because sometimes we say, oh, it's just this, the name of the Torah portion is Vayigash. But there's a lot of weight behind this word and the choice of this word that I want to unpack this morning. Okay? Judah, last week, promises to his father, I will be an assurity. I will put my life at risk so that we will bring your son Benjamin back home to you. Okay? And this was a big move by Judah. We like to link this now to why Judah becomes the person whose legacy we follow as Jews. Not only he transforms from someone who didn't take responsibility for the consequence of his brother Joseph to someone who is now taking responsibility. And in last week's Torah portion, he says he will. And as we turn to this week's Torah portion, we are left being like, well, what's going to happen? Joseph now has Benjamin. Judah said he would stand up for his brother, but is he really going to do it? What's going to happen? And then, boom, Vayigash, he steps up. And he doesn't just approach, but he puts his life at risk. It's a liminal moment for the Jewish people because we are left, because of this Vayigash, what is going to happen? Will the family come back together? Will Judah lose his life? All of these things are coming together in this one word of Vayigash. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks quotes Rabbi Saul Berman and says, there are three central Vayigashes that define Jewish character. And I want to share with you the other two, that I want to ask you what these three have in common. Sorry. So we're going to flash back to page 101. I'm going to unmic while I cough. exactly. Get the standard. All right, page 101, everyone. Page 101. Again, we're unpacking the word Vayigash. Who's our hero here? It's Abraham. Then the men went out on from there to Sodom, while Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Abraham came forward and said, "Will you sweep away the innocent along with the guilty? What if there should be 50 innocent within the city? Will you wipe them out the place and not forgive it for the sake of the innocent 50 who are in it?" I just read you the words, but we all know the story. Yes, Dr. Ehrman? I'm on page 102, 103. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Okay. It's Abraham, Sodom, God. What's the story? God says, I'm going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And what does Abraham say? He haggles with him. Why does Abraham haggle? What's the concern here?
Is it Lot living there?
Hmm?
Is it Lot living there?
Lot's living there? Mm-hmm.
His family?
Yeah, okay. But Lot's going to get a pass. What's the issue that Abraham is making?
Wiping out righteous lives along with those who are sinners.
Yeah, what about the righteous? Are they really all sinners? You're going to destroy this entire town? And lo and behold, look at the word that is used to describe how when Abraham raises the question, first word on verse 23, bottom 102, Vayigash Avraham Vayomer Ha'aftispeh, right? Abraham comes forward. Now, we think, oh, it's so great that Abraham is coming forward, but he is now questioning God. This is a big move. We don't see a lot of people up until this point questioning God. Abraham puts himself at risk and approaches God. And by the way, what is the purpose what's the factor? What is the quality that Abraham is basing his argument on? It's the value, the virtue, sorry. Justice. Hashofet kol haaretz. Will the judge, right, of all the world, act in this way? Okay, central part of our High Holy Day liturgy. Now I want to show the third one, which we actually have in our red book. It comes all the way from the Book of Kings, and if you go to the Haftarah for Ki Tisa, it's found on page 550 or 551. It's a showdown between Elijah and all of the other prophets. There's a famine in the land, and Elijah is now going to show that he is the true prophet. There is one true God, and there is one way to worship to this God through the appropriate sacrifices. Elijah, by the way, if you go through this week's that section of Torah, we'll see uses the word Vayigash very frequently. But the one in particular that I just like for us to consider is on page 551. Verse 36. Vahi ba'alo tamincha, right, when it came time to present the grain offering, the prophet Elijah comes forward, Vayigash, and said, O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known today that you are God to Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your bidding. Answer me, O Lord, answer me, that the people may know that you, O Lord, are God, for you have turned their hearts backward. Okay, so this is the third instance here of the Vayigash. We have the Vayigash of Judah approaching his brother Joseph. We have the Vayigash of Abraham approaching God, and we have the Vayigash of Elijah approaching God. Anyone see a pattern in these three Vayigash that might show the connection of all three of them? Yes.
It's definitely not a level playing field on these three Vayigashes, and in all three of them. Well, it's interesting that two I don't like the word translate, interpreted as came forward, and one is to go up. So already with the going up, you sense that there's like this imbalance. He's going up, and they're forms of supplication. Really, I mean, they are coming up because they need something. Judah needs to get his
Oh, I
family
like that.
back.
Yep.
Eliyahu needs these answers. It's not just a request. It's not as simple, hey, can I borrow $5?
Yeah, just so for those of you who are playing at home, just so you can hear what Diane said. So number one is in all three of these, they're not an even playing field. It's not two colleagues saying, oh, I'm going to talk to you. It's like there's an imbalance. And the person who is on the lower end is going up. One way you can understand Vayigash is it going up. But really, it's to approach someone who's not at the same level as you. And those three circumstances have those qualities in common. Really nice, really nice. Milt.
I agree. I think it even goes beyond that because there is such, there's a word that's being used now in terms of warfare where the two sides are not equal. I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember what it is, but it is, they're not only requesting, they're really doing it with some little bit of chutzpah, right? Because in this one, actually, you notice he says aneni, and then he says aneni again. It's that double request, which is like really a strong statement. He's saying to God, answer me. He's saying it twice. So it's really standing up to God as an individual who says, you owe your people this. It's beyond just a request. It's really saying this is your obligation to your people.
So I think what Milt is saying is in each of these examples, there's chutzpah, right? There's someone saying, even though I am in the lower rank, I am going with strength to the upper, approaching someone of greater power than me with my request. Yeah.
But in two of them, the person is approaching God,
Yeah.
but in the today portion, he's approaching Joseph. Joseph's not God,
Correct.
even though he says my Lord, but it's more of a lowercase L
Yeah.
in this case.
Yeah.
So I don't see them as being exactly the same.
Oh, just to be clear, there's a lot of differences in all three of them, 100%. And one of the differences that Bernie is pointing out is two deal with God, one is the human being, and Joseph is clearly not God. Yep, great. Someone else? Yes, Schooled.
There's also each of the positions on the lower end, if you will, is advocating for a group. Like Abraham is advocating for all of Sodom, Judah is advocating for his family, Elijah is advocating for the Jewish people to this higher power.
Really, really nice. Really, really nice. Abraham for the world, right? And Judah for the family. Really nice. And you're saying that Elijah for the Jewish people. Okay, really nice. Yasher koach. Really great. Anyone else? It's interesting, in thinking about the question I was going to ask, what came to my mind was in all three, it took courage. Like, Milt, you said is chutzpah. Chutzpah is like, it's like, when you get your strength and energy together, then you can move forward with chutzpah. But in order to get that strength and energy forward, you have to have courage. I imagine, what it's like to be a football player and come to the line of scrimmage against a far bigger opponent. You got to somehow muster a lot of strength and courage. And all three of those are true. So I want to take a step back and share perhaps why these three might be different, and then I want to show how they were brought together. They're different in that the requests are not all the same. The first one, what is Judah asking for? He's asking for mercy. Be kind to me, my family. He actually asks him, do you have a father? Imagine what it would be like for him not to have his child. What does Abraham ask for? Abraham asked for justice. And Elijah's a funny one. You could say a little bit of both, but ultimately, Elijah is focused on himself. Elijah wants to see. Elijah wants intimacy with God. Elijah's story, in many ways, parallels Moses' story. Both want to have a one-on-one relationship with God, that God will reveal to Elijah, and all will see. But first, it is through him. The third one is who benefits. And Hannah, I love your drash on this. I want to tweak it just a little bit, but again, these are just all interpretations here. So yours is equally as beautiful. And Judah is focused on family. Abraham is focused on the world. And Judah, again, is focused on himself. Not Judah. Elijah is focused on himself. So there's some differences here, and then some similarities because they're all in acts of going up, of displaying chutzpah, of going to power from a more vulnerable position. And how are all of these brought together? Believe it or not, almost everyone in this room knows the answer and has been demonstrating it. It comes from a teaching of Rabbi Elazar ben Yehuda, who was a 12th century, a late 12th century rabbi, and says, these three Vayigash are the proof text for a central ritual behavior that everyone in the room just demonstrated. And if you didn't, I'm going to let you in on this ritual behavior because it's one of those things that when you do in synagogue, it conveys that you know what you're doing and therefore leads to a sense of belonging and ownership because, I know how to pray well, even though we're always all learning. And that is, and I reinforce this at our Hebrew school, the act of taking 3 steps back before we engage in the Amidah, and then 3 steps forward. The Amidah, we stand in the presence of God. And what does it mean to stand in the presence of God? In a beautiful, very human choice by our rabbis, we begin that process by taking 3 steps back, which makes complete sense. Who are we as human beings to be able to engage in a conversation with, as we understand, the King of Kings, the ruler of rulers? And if we're ultimately people who don't believe in idol worship, right, that we can actually know God, it makes complete sense that when we're posed with the opportunity to be like, okay, I want you to have a conversation with God, that we're like, no, no, no. Step back, step back, step back, because I'm just a human being. And if I'm a true monotheist and understanding of my role as a human being, then clearly I understand there's a separation and I can't get behind the screen. I cannot enter into the Holy of Holies. It's not philosophically possible. And then we take 3 steps forward. And for Rabbi Yehuda, what he says is the permission to take these 3 steps forwards comes from these 3 Vayigash that occur in our canon. The first is Judah, who says, family, the people of Abraham, merit being together, and we have the right to advocate for each other. Abraham says, hey, not only family, but we are a people that believe in standing up for the fallen, for giving voice to those who don't have a microphone, and when people are sick, we have to offer healing. When people are fallen, we have to offer them a chance to stand. When people feel that they are dead, that we can revive them. And then the third story, that of Elijah, is, and yet we also have a need to be in conversation with the divine. And frankly, the divine wants to be in conversation with us. We as individuals matter that much. And it's on these three stories, on these three attributes, that we merit approaching God. And if we're talking about Vayigash as coming with courage, yes, to pray involves courage, because we should begin with how finite we are and how limited we are. And it takes chutzpah to stand up and raise these questions to God. It actually follows that these three Vayigash parallel the first three blessings, first three prayers, blessings that we say to God in the Amidah. God of our ancestors, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, right? The Magen Avraham, the shield of Abraham, that parallels Judah, who's standing up for his family. The Mechaye HaMeitim, which we understand as which sometimes we hear as being a theological, will somehow bring those who have passed away back to life. Really what that second blessing is about is living in a world of justice, where those who are fallen have someone to help them stand up. Those who are sick have a source of healing, right? Matir Asurim, those who are imprisoned or captive have a chance to be held free. We turn to God for that, but we are designed to, we say those prayers so that we will act in godly ways in this world. And three is the Kedusha, that we imagine that when we ascend on our toes, that we are approaching God, because God welcomes that conversation with the three of us. So I share with you these the Vayigash because so much is unpacked in one word, and we have so much opportunity every time we come together and engage in the Amidah. That's why we take 3 steps backwards. That's why we take 3 steps forwards before each Amidah. And one last thing, I read in the newspaper today that the owner of Kava, is a Jewish man, that around this time of year, he, at the beginning of every secular year, he goes on a retreat and he asks himself the question, what would happen to me if at the end of if I died this year, right? What would I want to have accomplished so that I can feel that I lived a complete, full life? And it's led him to study Talmud, it's led him to engage in fitness, and I think he's representative of all the different, New Year's resolutions and crazy rituals that we do this time of year. And every time I read about, these pathways, I think about why do we have to wait just to January 1st to do this, when our tradition, when our prayer book gives us a very similar opportunity every time we choose to open it, whether it be once a week, once a day, or 3 times a day. What am I doing when I open up the prayer book? To bring a sense of mercy. What am I doing to bring a sense of justice? What am I doing to bring myself closer to being in God's presence? How am I supporting and standing up for my family? How am I supporting and standing up for my community? And how am I standing up for myself so that I can be in God's presence? This opportunity awaits us every time we open up the Siddur. May we take advantage of it every time we come together in prayer. Shabbat Shalom.